Hello, everyone, and welcome to my channel, Designed to Win. I am Dara, the host, and I am so glad that you are here with me today. Today, I want to talk about something God has been showing me recently. And the title of my message this week is going to be Hidden Messages. I chose that title because this week I've been reading a new book called God Talks. It's written by Ed Rush. I would recommend this book greatly. This book has taken me on a journey of paying closer attention to God and how He speaks to us. The more I have reflected on that, the more I have realized that God constantly speaks to us in many ways. He leaves messages for us. Sometimes they're obvious, and sometimes they're found in Scripture, and sometimes they're through another person, and sometimes they're in hidden places we don't expect. For over 30 years, I have taught art in special education. I taught both in the public and private schools. I've taught in the public and private sectors. And for 25 of those years, I taught in a classroom as a classroom teacher. What many people don't know is that I didn't originally finish my degree until later in life. I had started college when I was younger, but when I got married and started having a family, I didn't finish my degree. But my husband passed away when I was fairly young and my children were young. So I made the decision I needed to go back to school and get my degree. I was working 3 jobs and struggling a lot, so I felt like my degree would be a good thing for me to do. But looking back on that time, it was one of the hardest times that I ever remember in my life. There were definitely moments that I wanted to quit and moments I wondered if I could really finish it and do it. There were moments when I wasn't sure how everything was going to work out at all. But God made a way for me to do it. He put people in my life to cheer me on and to encourage me and brought the money and all those things. In fact, the whole journey was such a God story, it probably needs to be a whole nother episode in itself. So, as I graduated, or graduation came about and was approaching, I remember clearly one day I was walking through the courtyard and I heard God say to me, "You're not going to teach for long. This is not what I have for you to do for very long." And I thought, what? I don't know about you, but after spending 3 years finishing your degree and raising kids and all that stuff, that's trying to get it done. That is not exactly what I wanted to hear or expected to hear from God. I remember thinking, Lord, what in the world do you mean? I just worked so hard for this degree at this time. I really didn't understand. I was very confused. And I really asked God that question over and over again, but He told me the same thing. And I didn't understand, so I just left it at that. But now I do know. I know exactly why God told me that. God wasn't sending me into the school simply to teach art and special education. He was sending me there for the people, for the students, for specific young people, young lives He wanted me to impact. Those were my somebodies. So over the years, I worked with students who struggled with ADHD, dyslexia, autism, anxiety, and many other challenges. Loss of loved ones, so many things. I worked with kids that were from overseas in different countries. And I watched them discover their gifts they didn't know that they had. I watched them express emotions through art they couldn't put into words. And I watched them begin to see that they were valuable, gifted, and created for a purpose. And trust me, sometimes I got in trouble. I got pulled to the office a few times over the years because I had a heart for them and I cared about helping them discover who God created them to be more than fitting them into that neatly cured box that education is in. But I will tell you, looking back, I know now God had me exactly where He wanted me to be when He needed me to be. So that brings me to the message hidden. It brings me back to the title of this message, which is Hidden Messages Today. So recently, I was in my room cleaning and stuff, and I glanced at a photograph sitting on the dresser in my room. And it's a picture of a former student and me that was taken not too long before I retired from public school teaching. As I looked at that picture, a lot of memories came flooding back of that student. And I remembered something that happened a few years ago. During me moving from one place to the next, that picture had fallen and the frame broke. I was very, upset about it at first, but as I took it apart to take the picture out of it, I discovered something that I did not know was there. And I wondered how long I would have ever known that it was there. Tucked behind the photograph, hidden behind the picture and the backing of the frame was a written letter. A letter from this student. A hidden message. What made that discovery so powerful was the timing of it. At that point in my life, my family and I were walking through some incredibly difficult circumstances. I was exhausted, I was discouraged, and I was questioning a lot of things. I was really wondering if anything I had spent my life doing had really mattered. We've all been there. Some of you are there right now. I was really wondering if I had made a difference at all. As parents, we often wonder that. Have we made a difference in our kids' lives, or has anything we said resonated with them? I'm just wondering how many of you have ever been there. I'm sure there's quite a few of you that are listening that have been there, and there may be students that are even listening to it. Well, that place we often are where we're asking God if He sees us. That place where we wonder if life has mattered at all. And that place where we question our purpose. That's where I was. And that's where I'm so sure that some of you have been or are right now, like I said. Well, those are the things I was thinking. As I saw this letter, I began to read it. And I'll be honest, I began to cry. I cried probably more than I wanted to admit. I won't read you the letter, but basically the student thanked me for being there through some of the hardest moments of her life. And I'll just give you a brief. She was a student that was from another country. She was displaced from her family, so to speak, and she had two brothers that passed away during the time she was there and I was teaching her. She just went through a really tough time. But in her note, she thanked me for encouraging her, for believing in her and being there for her, and for helping her to keep going. And she said, "Thank you for these words. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." Philippians 4:13. Well, I lost it. I cried even more because that verse wasn't just any verse in the Bible. It was my verse. The verse that I have clung on to through so many difficult times in my life. In fact, it was the only verse that I knew for a long time that I even had memorized. And when the times where I'd cry or I'd be upset or I felt lost when my husband died and many other times in my life and just getting through college, I would find myself repeating that verse over and over and over again. And I had given that verse to her to hang on to through all those difficult times she was going through. But what I realized that during this particular time, when I found this note, I had kind of stopped holding on to that. And I hadn't been saying that scripture very much. And I hadn't really been holding on to that thought. But interesting enough, God knew. God knew exactly what I needed. And He knew that I needed to hear that from someone else. He knew I needed a reminder, not just a scripture. He needed me to know who He is, to remind me of His faithfulness, of His love, of His purpose for my life, of the fact that my life mattered, that the things that I had done mattered, that being faithful to Him mattered, and that He had placed me in that student's life for a reason, at exactly the right time, for exactly the right purpose. Honestly, what amazes me is that God had that message waiting for me for years before I needed it. I mean, truly, it had been years. Think about it, years before I would discover it. I wonder what went through her head when she put that in there. Maybe she'll just need it when she needs it, or maybe she'll open it and find it. She had to know it probably would be years before I discovered it, years before I'd had that difficult season, or years before the doubts came in, but God knew. He knew, and He orchestrated the whole thing. He already had that message prepared for me. That is who God is. Is that not amazing? I think many of us spend our lives crying out to God, asking where He is, wondering if He hears us, wanting to know if He sees the struggles that we're going through. Maybe some of you listening today have never really had a relationship with God. Maybe you heard about Him but never experienced Him personally. Maybe you're wondering if He is even there. But can I tell you something? He is there. And often He is speaking to us in ways we don't expect. Sometimes He speaks to us through a friend or through just a conversation. Sometimes through His word, and sometimes through a memory. And sometimes through a hidden note tucked behind a picture frame. God has a way of reminding us that He loves us, that we are truly loved, that we're seen, that we're heard, that our lives matter, that our lives have a purpose, and that He has never left us. So today I want to encourage you to pay attention, slow down, and ask God, especially if you don't know Him. Just say, I don't know you. I want to know you. I want to know more about you. I want to know who you are. Ask God to show you what He is saying to you. Ask Him to reveal the hidden messages He has been placing in your life that you haven't seen. I mean, it could be like my hidden message in a picture frame. You just never know. But I promise you, even if you don't think God is speaking, He is speaking to you. My prayer for you through this podcast today and moving forward, this weekend or next week, my prayer is that God will reveal Himself to you, that He will remind you some way in a hidden message of His love, that He will show you His faithfulness, and that maybe, just maybe, you're going to find that hidden message for exactly when you need it at the time that you need it, just like I did. I'm so glad that you spent this time with me today, and I hope that this message will resonate with you, that God will reveal His hidden message to you some way. If this episode has touched you in any way, if it's touched your heart, it's made you think, but you know that there's somebody else out there that could use this message, please pass it on. Share it with somebody else. And if you want to continue to have more messages from me and listen to my podcast, please subscribe so that you get each podcast as it comes out new on Fridays. And remember, God created us all to be designed to win. We were created for a purpose. Our life matters. And He really is listening to us. So until next time, keep walking, moving forward one step at a time. And I love you all. God bless you. Until the next episode.